Formula Access. Today we have another special guest from Dallara. Today we have Daniele Guarnaccia. Pardon my accent. I think I nailed it. I hope I nailed it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Daniele is a vibrant personality. He is the program manager for the Dallara Stradale and the EXP. These are some of the most incredible road cars that were a longtime vision of Mr. Dallara himself. And Daniele gets into his, call it, experience and history and journey of creating this vision in real life in record time with just enormous passion and enormous drive and great vision. You guys grab a cup of coffee, enjoy this conversation. You can't miss this. Formula Access, welcome. Today we have another special guest from Dallara. Today we have one of their program managers, Daniele Guarnaccia. I hope I got that right. Daniele, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ryan.
Did I nail it? The pronunciation, did I get it right?
Was perfect. I would say you are the first, let's say, not Italian guy that can pronounce my name. So my congratulations.
I half Italian. I am my mother and her father came from Asti, Italy.
Okay. So yeah.
Very early on, but I only got the appearance. I didn't get any of I didn't get the tongue. I didn't get any of that. So,
but the trace in your DNA is still present because your pronounce was good.
Well, I gotta say, you're the first Italian name that I have nailed, and poor Alice that I had from Dallara on there, I completely butchered her name, and so hopefully we get it right. But welcome. Seriously, thank you for coming on the show, and thank you, Dallara, for just kind of hosting guests and just allowing fans and people within the sport to just really get an understanding of what this world looks like. Because there's, obviously here stateside, there's a huge fascination with motorsport. And honestly, like, young people just don't know how to kind of come into this world, especially here. And just kind of getting around that, I get a lot of private messages from fans and people listening, just thanking you for explaining what does this world look like, because you have the whole the media presence of the sport. It looks intimidating. It feels a little bit like Hollywood, and in reality, it's just a normal business with a bunch of extremely passionate people behind it. And so I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Your pleasure.
So you are a slightly different guest than we're used to, which excites me, because you've got some really neat projects that have some crossover from former guests, not only from Dallara, but the D Orlandos sent me some pictures a bit ago of them test driving a car. And I was pretty fascinated with it, and they kind of filled me in on what it was, and then this whole thing came up, and I was like, oh wow, we have the actual guy here. So explain to the audience kind of who you are and what you do today.
Yeah, I'm. I would say I'm one of the lucky guy in the company that is program manager in Dallara. We are not so many guys. I mean, we are more or less less than 8 guys in the company. And the program manager is during the product development, when you develop a new product, is the overall manager of a new product during the product development. Means the program manager is completely responsible of the technical direction of the project. Is completely responsible of to reach all the targets in terms of budget, time plan, and let's say satisfaction of your customer. and that the satisfaction of your customer can be a very different way to measure, because one customer can be directly Dallara when we design and we develop a new racing car for some series where Dallara is competing, or the customer can be an external big OE in automotive, an automotive car maker that is asking, for example, Dallara to design something, or the customer can be I don't know, can be an aerospace company where we are designing or manufacturing something, or we do some engineering activity. So the fantastic aspect in Dallara that one day you are designing a new single-seater race car, and 1 year after you are doing a complete chassis integration for one hypercar of I don't know, the biggest OE brands in the world. So for this reason, I feel like a lucky guy that can do this job. Of course, with all the aspects, it's very fascinating, challenging, exciting, especially for me, for my history, for my wish when I was young, and also a lot of pressure, a lot of responsibility, sometimes for a very long period in time.
So what projects specifically are you on today?
I mean, my career was for sure, let's say, marked by, I was the lucky of the lucky guys. I was the man that was in charge of the Dallara Stradale development. Dallara Stradale is a road car. And then I was the program manager of all the related product. We did also the Dallara EXP, that, by the way, is very important for us in the United States because it's a pure racing car that comes directly from the Dallara Stradale. So this is my biggest part of program manager in the last 7 years. But I was also fully involved as program manager in complete racing cars for external customer. It's by the way, it's a very good, let's say, I have a good memory of this. Was a big project that we did for Renault Sport Technology in Paris, where I developed as a program manager the Renault RS01. By the way, it was for me a fantastic racing car that had not the chance to demonstrate its potential, because after 2 years of the use of the car, Renault moved their budget completely into Formula One, so they stopped other programs. So the car had the opportunity to make only 2 years. But it was my first experience as a program manager for racing cars. Now I'm still continuing working for all the world of Dallara XP, so the track day cars for US, the Dallara Stradale Road, so improvement, updates, optionals, packages. And I'm fully involved also in managing some big engineering consultancy for big OE here in Italy. That unfortunately I cannot say neither the name of the brand, nor the activity I'm following. Unfortunately, very often we have a very high-level non-disclosure agreement with some of our customers.
I totally understand. So you manage more than one program at a time, or do you sit kind of in one program and then move to the next?
It depends on how big the programs in parallel are. I mean, during the Dallara Stradale or XP or Renault, or I was also the guy of the Alfa Romeo 4C in Italy. I was also involved in other engineering consultancy. For a program like Dallara Stradale or Renault, so a full car, to be honest, there is no way, no room to follow more programs in parallel at the same time. For example, in this moment, in this period of the year, I'm only just doing, let's say, maintenance. That it is not always, it's not a proper maintenance, but it is update of the product for the Dallara Stradale. This is completely compatible with other two programs. One is the engineering consultancy for the OE, and another one is another racing car that I'm responsible of among with the colleagues of mine that it is just a little bit less experienced. So I'm just doing a sort of tutoring with him on a racing car for. By the way, it's an autonomous racing car, so it's very exciting. So I have in this moment three 3 programs active on my daily business.
What is your background? I mean, is it kind of business and delegating tasks, or is it an engineering background? Is it a mechanical engineering or aerodynamics or what?
In Dallara, for sure, you are a technical guy. So I'm a mechanical engineer. I started in Dallara as a designer within the design office, doing my first day was preparing a spare parts catalog of racing cars in the design office, but a mechanical engineer with a very strong background on vehicle dynamics. But as a designer, then I had the chance to be the leader of a small group of designers. And at one point, I was the guy to manage entirely the program of the Dallara Stradale, following everything. So I would say the most important aspect of my job is for sure technical aspects. So the program manager in Dallara must be technical. You need to understand exactly what we are doing in terms of designing, materials, vehicle dynamics, aerodynamics, vehicle integration, homologations. What does it mean to manage a car on a racetrack? So capability to service the car, how fast the car can be repaired. So you must really understand our world. Otherwise, you cannot be a program manager, because otherwise no one will trust you, because you talk in Dallara, everyone in Dallara, starting from every level in the company, everyone is very expert of the product we do. So if you need to manage all those guys, you must be really prepared on the technical aspects. So I cannot see a way to have a program manager in Dallara that it is a business guy that's just delegating everything to different functions. So everyone here is as a program manager is as a main aspect is a good technicians.
How do you even measure success with your group? How do you measure success on a program or a specific car type? Is it just speed, performance? Is it a specific track and lap? Is it, customer satisfaction? What?
More or less everything that you mentioned. I mean, you have at least 3 levels of targets to be measured. One level is on the business perspective. So you have, as a program manager, the responsibility to stay within a certain budget, to stay within a certain time frame. So one of the 2 key aspects is, okay, you did the project in the agreed time plan, and you did the project with agreed budget. So this is the first 2. Then you can consider the customer satisfaction, that normally we issue to the customer a survey to understand if they are happy with the product we delivered to him. But to be honest, in the racing cars, the real final KPI is if the car has reached the performance target that was decided at the beginning of the project. And means normally, to be completely clear with you, there are some sub-targets like aerodynamic performance, so numbers, where the downforce is, where the drag is, where the efficiency is, weight numbers, so if the car is at the right level of weight, behavior of the car, so if the car is in terms of balance and setting of the car is quite on target, and finally, the performance the car can reach in a specific track. Sometimes in a racing cars, you have at the beginning of the project a list of track where the car will run. If we do with the new Formula 2, for example, we know exactly in which track the car will run. And our customer will ask us, okay, I want that this car in this track will be faster than the car of the previous year. Faster by, I don't know, a certain amount of tenths of seconds. So this is, to be honest, at the end, the biggest challenge you have, because you can stay within the budget, you can stay with the time plan, you can explain why in case you were extra budget, extra time plan, but the lap time on a specific track is something that you cannot argue at any time. You must be there, and the combination of weight, aero, balance is the only way to target the lap time.
Of all the projects that you're working on, which one is most personal to you? Is there an emotional attachment to a specific program that you have so far?
I'd say at least two that, by the way, I already mentioned. One was the Renault RS01 that I suggest you and your audience to Google Renault RS01 2015, because it was my first racing car as a program manager. So for sure, I really fall in love with this car, with this project. By the way, it was a record project because we did the project from the white paper until the prototype completely running in 6 months, including style development, aero development, everything. So it was quite challenging, quite successful program, and my first experience as a program manager. Then I cannot say nothing different respect Dallara Stradale and Dallara XP, because it is a completely different story. We developed from white paper a complete road car that now became again a complete racing car that is very complicated, very sophisticated. It's a gentleman, a car for gentlemen, so very easy to be managed. So it was even a biggest challenge respect to racing car, to be honest. And also, I'm really I have an emotional link with the car because it was a way for me to work side by side, day by day, with my myth. My myth is Mr. Dallara. So this car was the project of Mr. Dallara, was the dream of Mr. Dallara, the Dallara Stradale, and then the Dallara XP. And this was the opportunity for me to work with him, to understand a lot from him, to learn a lot from him. And is an experience that I will, for the entire of my life, I will bring with me.
How did you get into motorsport? I mean, as a fan, as a person, I think we all kind of we all grow up with this, with a parent or like a sibling or somebody that's a fan, and and that's where this kind of passion rears its head. How did you get into motorsport?
So I had my brother that was a reader of a very famous magazine in Italy of cars, a car magazine. And when I was 5 years old, I asked my brother, who is in the work world, in the job world, the guy that is designing cars, do the cars? And my brother answered me, the mechanical engineer. Instead of, he could say the stylist, he could say the man that sell the car. He said mechanical engineer. And I sort of, I text mechanical engineer in my brain for 15 years until the moment when I was obliged to decide, okay, what I will do in the future of my life. And then I remember, okay, at one point I decided to be a mechanical engineer, and by the way, during the 15, 16 years old, I was a fan of Formula One. I continue looking at the Grand Prix, a race competition with my brother, so it was always present in my life. And then I decided to be a mechanical engineer. During the university in Italy of mechanical engineer, I was more and more and more passionate about motorsport. And during the university, it looks strange. It looks like that I'm quite self-confident. But during university, I decided I like Dallara. Even at that time, Dallara was famous for Indy, for sure, and for Formula 3 cars. Nothing more, to be honest, at that time, during the period of my university. But I completely fall in love with the company because, it's a small company that is very famous in US. They do really high technological car. They are very successful. I want to work for Dallara. And for me, it was quite difficult because I come from Sicily. My studies were done in Sicily, near the volcano Etna in Catania, and Dallara is quite. I mean, it's 20 hours driving from my home. So I decided, okay, I want to work for Dallara, and I insist at least three times to have the opportunity to start working with them. And at one point in 2008, my dream was true, and I started working for Dallara, continuing having a lot of passion for motorsport, as you can imagine.
So it's always been Dallara. I'm really impressed by somebody that is so goal oriented that they know in school that this is what they want to do and where they want to be, and you did it. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's exactly like this. I had another experience before Dallara, because initially, and this is a sort of secret, Dallara, let's say, refused my proposal. So in the meantime, I had another experience in another motorsport company. And then I still continue asking to have an opportunity to work for Dallara. And finally, after 2 years of other experience, I had the opportunity to work for them. So I'm really, in a certain manner, I'm really living my dream. So what I want to do, let's say, in the last 20 years, or during the school, during the university, looking at my future. So I'm really happy to work here. I really like what I do every day.
I'm gonna pull back though for a second. So you worked at Prema for a minute in F3. Describe,
Yes.
like, was the passion for Dallara so much that you didn't want to do the Formula One route? That feels like the logical progression for me. Like, you got in that and you're like, I'm out. I'm going to Dallara.
The experience in Prema was done in parallel with Dallara. I was already working for Dallara as a designer, but me personally, and as I suggest that every guy in this world must be, I'm very curious. I need to see the reality of what you design. And to do so, you cannot design in an office and that's it, but you must see exactly how the product you design are used in reality. What are the problems that mechanics has working on the car? What are the time slot and the, let's say, the pace of the time during a day in a track? And all the, let's say, the daily business you have when you are on a racetrack. So for this reason, I asked to do this experience in parallel, and for me was really, really fundamental, because it was the real first time. During the university, I did also the Formula Student. That is something for university to prepare a racing car for competition among universities. But the experience in Prema was really something that allowed me to realize what you design when you stay in Dallara. What is the final aim? To see the respect that the drivers has on the product you do. And the fact you feel how much important is the job you do for them. I mean, they are in your car, they push, they reach the limit. They need to trust your car. They need to trust your product, because they are there fighting for the last tenths of seconds. So it is the moment when you realize how much important, how important is to do a good product, and you feel really what is the use of your product. So for me, it was fundamental to continue and improve my career in the company. So it was a parallel experience for me that I suggest to everyone to do an experience to be data engineer, race engineer, or something in a track events, especially very competitive like Formula 3 at that time.
All right. So my next question, we're going to go back to what you're on currently. Dallara has two major road cars under development. We've seen a lot on social media, seen a lot just general racing forums or whatnot. You guys have the Stradale and the EXP. They're both basically the same car. What are the differences between the two of those?
To answer your question, Ryan, I would start from what is the spirit of the Stradale. So the Stradale is not marketing, what I'm saying, because it looks like a sport marketing. what we tried to do with the Stradale was to put in a product the racing experience of the last 50 years and the automotive engineering experience we made in the last 20 years. So we try to put all together this, doing a completely full homologated road car, where the weight is less than 1 tons by far, with a weight to power ratio up to 2, with an aerodynamics that is not typical of road cars. It is abnormal for road cars because the amount of downforce is more than the weight of the car. If you put all together the 3 numbers, so weight, downforce, and horsepower respect the weight, the experience of the Stradale is really the synthesis of what we did in the last 50 years. This was the dream and the target of Mr. Dallara. And again, when I say dream, I'm not saying something for marketing. I can say to you that the day that we presented the car officially in Italy, everyone was crying. Me personally, Dallara as well, and even if I talk about this, it's moving for me. So this is the basic spirit of the Dallara Stradale. What we did with the XP, the XP is even more interesting for some perspective because we go back again in our natural environment. So we bring back again the Stradale to the track. So with the XP, we are free of the constraints coming from homologations, from laws, from public road use. So we remove all these constraints and we abstract again the pure spirit of the car. So we have 50% more downforce, 50% more torque, but with the same weight, putting slick tires and using racing dampers, racing setup, everything adjustable like a normal racing car. If you combine all together, you obtain the XP. The XP for us is the perfect synthesis of, let's say, the top level of professional track day racing cars, completely affordable for gentlemen drivers, having a level of performance that is nothing comparable at this kind of cars. Just to say something in terms of performance for the XP, having half of the cylinders, half of the tires, and maybe 30-40% less of weight, we are faster than a GT3 car, racing GT3 car, like Blancpain or Fanatec or whatever other championship you can imagine. So with a car so small, you can be faster and faster than a GT3 car, having an experience that it is more formula, more single-seater car, that is, by the way, our DNA, of course, is something in the middle between a single-seater Formula car and a sport car like Le Mans or like Daytona prototype. And everything combined all together in a way that, because it basically is a road car, is completely drivable, but gentlemen drivers that can really understand, learn, and improve their driving style. So this is the basic principle.
Okay, so you said I get the dream. I know that's not marketing. When it comes to Italians and cars, it's not marketing, it's not fluff. It's a passion. What is the actual dream? Like when if you were to sit down with Mr. Dallara and say, what's the dream? I imagine running the project you had to ask that question. What is that dream specifically?
I can be even more precise because at one point, this moment is a really precise moment in the history. We made a meeting normally with Mr. Dallara. He's a genius. He's one of his kind, unique guy. Some meetings happen just a discussion with him. He's brilliant technically, vision, etc. And we had a meeting at the beginning of the project of Dallara Stradale, and he said, okay, now Daniele and Mr. Pontremoli, I will tell you what I think the Dallara Stradale should be. I want to have a car that I can drive with my nephew beside me here in this valley, and I want to smell the grass, the fresh grass cut the morning. I want to see everything so open, and I can drive relax, and I can talk with my nephews. And then driving towards the Cinque Terre, 5 lanes, that it is very close from here, just 1 hour. I want to go there. I want to park my car there. I want to eat fish in the Palmaria Isle that is in front of Cinque Terre. Then I want to go back home. But instead to go back home, Varano, I do a different road until Mugello track. And I want my nephews beside me to beat everyone in the track and then go back home having done a very good lunch and very good fun on a track. This is the car that you do. You must do. This was the briefing of the product. I mean, what is if not a genius?
That sounds like a dream for me too. So, okay. Like what leads you to get into the car space? Is this a mass production project? Is this like a Pagani? Is this is this something you envision being mass produced, or what
No,
leads to
yeah. I mean, we don't want to be and to become a mass production car maker. Our business is doing racing cars that we do them in a good manner at top level, and this is our business. Our business is also to provide high level engineering services, what we believe we do very, very well. This is the main business. The Dallara Stradale was an exercise, a niche car, where we made the synthesis of all the competencies, experiences, as we said. So it's a product that will be, for road version, will be sold in only 500, 600 cars, no more. They are numbered, they are limited, there is no way, and this is the business of the Stradale. The dream of the XP is a little bit more free respect this kind of constraints. We believe anyway that will remain a niche car, and we also believe that it is a way to let's say to have the Dallara Stradale in the form of the Dallara XP also in the United States territory, because the Dallara Stradale is a road car homologated for Europe, Japan, and UK. It's not road homologated for US. The XP is a truck tool, it's a truck toy, it's a truck car, so can be sold everywhere. And we believe in the United States, where we believe we are, let's say, known. We know that the US markets know Dallara because of a lot of projects, a lot of collaboration in that territory. So we believe that the XP is the way also to share this experience, this fantastic product. Because, sorry if I define fantastic, of course it looks like marketing, but for me it's like a part of my life, for me, for Mr. Dallara, for everyone here. So we believe it will be a way also to be well known in this kind of product also in the United States.
So if the only way that I could get this in the US is the EXP?
Yes.
Can I take it on the road? Is it street legal?
No. But believe me, it can be a mind-blowing experience on track. Believe me. And it's something that every time we struggle with this, if you do not test the car, drive the car, is something that I cannot explain. I can, okay, this is not my language, so also there is the barrier of the English and Italian, but also in Italian, if I try to explain what is the XP, no words are enough. As soon as they drive the car, you understand everything, because the customer or the prospect or the interested guys jump out from the car with laughing from here, from one ear to the other one, 180 degrees of laughing. So, okay, no words needed. You understand exactly what the product is.
I am coming to Italy next year. I don't know when yet, but I'm coming to Italy. and I'm going to test that. And I'm not going to drive it because I don't know how to drive a car on the other side of the road like it needs to be driven. So you're going to have to take me out.
Yeah, definitely. It would be fantastic to test the Stradale on road car and then the XP on track and the Stradale on track. The combination of everything is something that it's really amazing. I mean, this is the big, let's say, the most important moment when we are in contact with customers to say that they are happy. They say our customers for the Stradale and for the XP are supercar collectors sometimes. So they drive normally every car you can imagine. And as soon as they test the XP on track, or they said it's really a completely different story. I mean, something different. And when you hear from a customer, that's something different. I mean, it's a good point, because nowadays it's very difficult to say this is different. So we are very proud of this, and it would be a pleasure to have you here.
You do, and I love how I just inserted myself and invited myself for this experience. So I'm gonna end it here, and I'm just gonna record it and hold you to it. You bring up a good point. So you talk about the EXP relative to other competitive race cars. How does this compare when you get into that high end track level car that most collectors, keep a number of them in their garage?
Yeah. I mean, of course, when you talk about performance comparison, it's very important to define the kind of test of the kind of tool you use to measure the difference in performance. In this case, we used a simple way that can be not universally defined. We defined that the target of the project during the XP development was, okay, we must be faster than a GT3 by at least 1 second on a lap time in Mugello. So we look at the pole position of the year before, where we developed the car, the Fanatec Championships. This is the lap time in Mugello. Okay, the target we must be at least 1 second faster. So we developed the car exactly having in mind this, and finally at the end we tested the car and we measured indeed 1.5 seconds faster than a GT3 car. So this position automatically the car in between prototype sports cars and GT3, that in this moment are the covered wheel series that are the main, I mean, the real representative of covered wheel. So we are in the middle with the XP somehow. Of course, closer to the GT3 level than Le Mans prototype that are really, really far. But we are in this territory where, to be honest, there are no other track cars present in that area of performance.
Okay, so that's the stopwatch tool. Now, what about the Niki Lauda tool? His rear end. How does the experience of a car? Because I've heard some high end track cars are very uncomfortable, hard to drive. If you're not a professional driver, they're very difficult to really experience the car.
Yeah. This is one of the key factors of the car. Is since the basis car is the Stradale, is a road car. So and to be honest, also when we developed the Stradale as a road car, we had already in mind the XP. So everything was done to arrive there. So every decision, technical decision, layout, decision of which kind of suspensions, which kind of tires, which kind of brakes, how structural must be the monocoque and the protection for driver, everything, also for the road car, was already thought to be the XP finally, So the Stradale was developed for the road use. So mechanically, the chassis is a really pure chassis. I mean, it's well balanced. You don't need at all electronics, even if the car has for lows. So the car is perfectly balanced, is almost neutral, but a very good understeer, very comfortable. And you add aerodynamics. So we can define even the Dallara Stradale as an aero car. because everything is based on this. So the driver feel the difference as soon as he's above 100 kph. He feels that something magic is happening. So there is something that is pushing the car into the ground, giving him the confidence to push or to feel safe, because you have a lot of grip, you have a lot of control of the car. And having this neutral behavior with a little bit of understeer is always controllable, always predictable, is completely for gentleman driver. We developed the XP exactly on this basis. So what the gentleman drivers that test the XP say normally at the end of their experience is, it's really easy. I can do lap by lap, improving myself. And to be honest, I don't see where the limit of the car is. I reach before my limit as a driver than the limit of the car. This is another good point, because it means that you can push forward, and the real limit is you, not the car. Because when the limit is the car, you cannot control the car anymore. If the limit are you, maybe the car can allow you to make some mistakes. So this is one normal comment they do. The other comment is incredible. Is like a Formula car. It's not a GT3, because you can have the corner, the speed at the apex of the corner can be, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 kph more than a GT3, because you have less weight and more downforce. You can brake 50, 70, 80 meters later than a normal GT3 car. Okay, you have not so high level of horsepower, so very likely at the end of the straight you will be 30, 40 kph slower. But you see, even if they are in the same track, you say, okay, I don't know, supercar in the straight that can overtake you like boom, but then in every corners you are immediately there, and you can overtake it and take, I don't know, 1 second of advantages respect the others. So it is a completely different way of driving the car. So we do performance, having speed in corner, let's say, moving forward the braking point, and driving a car with the covered wheels like a Formula cars. This is the spirit. And this is exactly what the customer, the gentleman, recognizes as soon as they drive the car.
So as a project lead, what are your responsibilities around this? Are you getting in the car every day and, I like this, I don't like that? I mean, what are your responsibilities in these two projects?
I was me personally, as a role in the company, I was the technical responsible of both cars. So since the concept, then development, then homologation for the Stradale, then development of the XP, and final deliver to start the production to the production line. So of course I'm fully involved, because we are a small company, and anyway we are talking about a niche product, where if you do mass production car, any customer can talk with the technical responsible of his Volkswagen, no? In this case, every one of us has direct contact with the customers. So I participate with them in truck experience. I participate with them in truck support. We do training for them here in Italy, for example, when we do racing driving course. And I'm fully involved. So this is the best part of my job, because I do, for my opinion, I do the best job in the world, doing and designing and to be the technical responsible for a product, so emotional product, so important, so beautiful, let's say. But on the other end, because we are so close, I have also the contact with customers, so I can collect exactly what they think about what we did. So that's normally in a big company, not always is possible, no?
It is the design process, and pardon my ignorance here, the only experience I have in this process is watching movies. So like Lamborghini, you're kind of just like putting stuff on, throwing it in the trash, bringing something else in, seeing if it fits, machining it. I mean, is this the same process? Do you get a shell? Do you get a monocoque set up and then bring a customer to sit and give you feedback on
the basic principle, Ryan, is exactly like this: is only pushed to the limit of professionalism. So, in a way, I can say in a different manner, we are good in doing cars because we are good in make mistakes in the right moment and find solutions. The more mistakes you do, the best, the better will be the final product. And if you do the mistakes in the right moment, you can do them, you can learn from them, you can modify, you can do the perfect product. So, for example, this is the reason why Dallara, in this sense, is on the edge of simulations. So, for this reason, I mentioned before, the approach is like movies, but at a top level of professionalism. We do mistakes in simulations. We design on CAD, on 3D models, everything. We calculate the structural performance of every component by calculation. We do aerodynamic simulations of the aerodynamics performance, of the cooling performance, of the brake cooling duct, of the engine bay heat soak, of everything is simulated in advance, even to reach the limit of the driving simulator. The Dallara Stradale was one example, and the Dallara EXP together, where we started. We have a big driving simulator. You know, Dallara, very likely you have learned, you know something about the driving simulator. Is a fantastic place where you can do mistakes almost at zero cost. So the Dallara Stradale was one of the cases where we started driving the car in the driving simulator with a real driver driving the car in a phase where the technical specification of the car was not defined. So we used the driver inside the driving simulator, driving a system that was not a monocoque, was some steel pipes welded together, where we put the steering wheel, some knobs and control the dashboard, and we started driving. Okay, it could be better to have 400 horsepower and 900 kilograms of weight, or 600 horsepower and 1,000 kilograms of weight. And also we drive, okay, it would be better to have this level of downforce or less downforce. And even more important, which is the right balance of downforce. We should have 30% front or 35% front. And the right wheelbase and track. And we tested a lot of different configurations, but having a human giving you answers directly. So you can say, okay, I like this aero balance. And so we have in another room the aerodynamics teams, and we can say, okay, we tested your proposal of aerodynamics, and we learned that we should move the balance by 2% in the front. Okay, we do the aerodynamics this way. So we have the driver in the loop since day one to define the technical specification of the car. So the driving simulator and all the simulation all together is the real perfect tool to make mistakes in the right moment and then to drive the design of the car exactly where you want. This is what you see in the movie. This is what this is in the reality, but just at the top level of professionalism.
I love that process. I am a very process-driven person, and I love structure and organization, but I always have operated by, I can take that process and burn it down and rebuild a better version of it instantly, and like at the request of the customer, at the request of the driver of that product. I love that.
I can even tell you, we use the driving simulator for the ergonomics. We had at one point the driver, I don't like this position. I want to have the steering wheel here and the pedal in this position, and I want to have this space here for my arm. If you do this kind of mistakes when you design and manufacture a real parts, and you discover that you have a problem like this,
yep,
is economically a nightmare, because you let's say spend a lot of money in tools, components, prototypes, mechanics, and everything. So if you can do all these mistakes in live instantly, you can modify everything. You can completely tailor the product exactly where you want to arrive at the end. So this is the reason why the car is so lightweight. This is the reason why the aerodynamics is exactly where it must be. The balance of the car is exactly where it must be.
I love that. How many EXPs are there? If it's not mass produced, how many did you produce?
In this moment, we produced 15 XPs.
Wow.
Just 15. So it's really niche.
What's the sticker price for that? To be one of 15.
It's in dollars is something that I don't know. And to be honest, I'm not so, let's say, in my normal environment of point to be discussed, Ryan. Sorry for this.
No, you're good. I'll look it up.
Yeah, it's something in euros. It's something like 260k euros in Europe. I don't remember in US.
For a track car.
Yes.
That's look, I don't have that kind of money to be throwing around, but to me that doesn't seem unreasonable for what you guys have delivered. I think that's exciting. I think probably it's harder to get one of 15 than it is.
Yeah, and also the running cost, because a simple car based on a road car. So also the run. So just to think about the cost of maintaining the XP, you have half of the tires, so they cost also half of the money of normal slick tires for big racing cars. The brake disc are the half of the brake disc they use in super sports car, and they cost half. For example, because of the lightweight, we were not. So it's technically it's complex, but I try to use simple words. If the car is light, you can use smaller brake discs.
Yep.
The reason why a lot of supercars has carbon brake discs is because they need a very big diameter to brake the car. So if because it's so big, they need to use a material that it is lighter. So they use carbon. They are more expensive, and they also are very complicated to be used because they need to be, let's say, warmed up, maintained, blah, blah, blah. If you're light, you can stay in a small diameter, so you can use steel. So the brake disc of both cars are in steel. You don't need carbon because the car is light. You don't need to reduce weight from the brake disc. So having the advantage of cost, having the advantage of maintenance, because they are very simple to be used. And everything is like this. I mean, if the car is light, you can have smaller suspensions, you can have lighter monocoque. So the lightweight calls for lightweight. The weight calls for weight. And then cost, because everything at the end is cost, complication, less reliability. So as Mr. Dallara says always, the lightest component and the most reliable component is the one that it is not present in the car.
Yeah.
The weight is zero and the cost is zero, and probability to have a failure, zero. So if you can reduce the number of parts, dimension of parts, and stress for every part, you have very likely you did a good job.
Is there a competitive goal for the EXP? I mean, do you envision that being in a series or part of a series, or is this just a gentleman's collection?
In this moment, it's thought like a gentleman. I mean, another definition we normally use for the XP is I used before, is track tool. Is a professional track tool for gentleman driver. So it's like the top end, the most performant ski for a skier, for the one that want to have sport. So it's the perfect track tool for the guy that want to have fun and have a professional experience for track. So this is where the car is. This is the way we define the car. So as a track tool in this moment is just the aim is just to have these as a track day cars, to have fun. Of course, we cannot exclude the option, and we would be very proud to at one point arrange something to have a one make series, because can be the perfect let's say use of the car, the perfect situation where you can have a lot of fun and really enjoy the overall experience of the professional racing cars. I mean, in an easy manner.
Okay, time to pivot here. You live in Italy. You've accomplished your dream. You work for Dallara. You're on some of the most exciting projects that they have. Every time that you and I speak, you're coming out of a meeting with big names. What's been your pinch me moment in this kind of illustrious career of motorsport?
For me, there are at least two. One was there are two projects, to be honest. One was a racing car that I did before the Dallara Stradale. That was the Renault RS01. And the pinch me moment was when it was my first project as project responsible now. So the first moment when, okay, we really, it's like seconds. The moment when the first prototype of this car was put into the ground and I see the wheels compressing into the bodywork. I see the car and I did it. I was the responsible of these strange animals. This huge car, racing car. So for me, this was to be honest, something that was a dream just 5 years before. The second moment was for the Dallara Stradale, and at least two moments in the Dallara Stradale. The day when we did the shakedown of the first prototype again, it was quite challenging because Mr. Pontremoli promised to Mr. Dallara, okay, for your birthday, this 1 year before, you will receive the first prototype. So, okay, so we have only 1 year to make the first prototype. And we really target by 2 days in advance, only 2 days in advance, the shakedown. And shakedown means that just 2 hours before the engine was fired up for the first time, the car was put in its wheel, okay, discovering, okay, it's working, everything is perfect, okay, we did a shakedown 2 days before his birthday. So we exactly respected the let's say the promises that was done by Pontremoli to Dallara, and also the team did to Mr. Dallara. And the second also was when we start the production for the first customer car, because again Mr. Pontremoli was challenging ourselves. Said to Mr. Dallara, okay, for the other birthday next year we will start the start of production. We will deliver the first car to the first customer. So we had another 1 year that was really incredible. And again, by 1 week in advance, we delivered the first car to the customer, opening also the building where we manufacture the car. So these three moments, one with the Renault and these two with the Dallara Stradale, the Renault was because, okay, it was a sort of dream for me that was reality. The other two, because it was the real moment when, okay, I can control complex programs, we can do really big stuff, and we can be successful if we work like we did during the last 2 years. So for this reason, these two was really, wow, we did it.
What didn't you expect? So you have X amount of years in this business. What surprised you? What you got in and you're like, wow, I wasn't expecting the industry to be like this.
Say again, Ryan, sorry, I didn't catch you.
What about motorsports in your career has surprised you, or something that you didn't expect this kind of dream that you had to be like?
I mean, to be honest, I had a very simple idea of what is motorsport when I was student, for example. It looks like more, let's say, to do something that you do for pleasure, that you like to do. What I really learned that is behind the motorsport, what made the difference is the organization. How you are organized, how you structure your work, how your team is done, and how you control what you do. So this part is not visible to the normal audience, but maybe nowadays, yes, Formula One is doing a great job in let's say sharing what it is behind the scenes, no. So they are doing really great job. I mean, the Formula One of the last 3-4 years. So the audience is starting understanding which kind of structure, which kind of organization are behind just doing one car like Formula One car. But this is what is really I understand only when I was inside this world. Organization, methods, precision, concentration every time, and the last also important, the other aspect important is every detail space. I mean, if you need to gain 10 kilograms of weight, every grams makes a difference. You need to only to do 100 times to let's say to collect 100 grams. So every details is really important. This is exactly what the motorsport teach me, what I understand, what I learned from motorsport.
Have you ever had a moment of adversity in your career, like an insurmountable goal or something that you almost doubted yourself that you couldn't accomplish, and you succeeded through that?
Yes, one moment was again with the Stradale, of course, because it was a long period. At one point, we had some technical problems with the components, and it was an optional package. So the start of selling, the start of delivery was already done. Some customers has bought this option. Was promised to everyone. Okay, no problem. In 3 months, you will receive this package. No problem, no problem. And we had a technical problem exactly in these 3 months in between the delivery and the promises that they will receive everything. In that moment, I really believe that we as a team, me and everyone, was not able to, let's say, to grant the promises that the company did to the customers. But again, it was a big lesson learned. We put forward to another step the teamwork. We moved the team all together in one room. We put in the same room different competencies. We invited suppliers to be resident in the company. So a sort of approach that was really intense, a new way for us to approach the problem. And finally, we found the solution. And again, we have the satisfaction to deliver what the company has promised to customers. But believe me, in the first 1.5 months of this 3 months period, we really we struggled.
How did you get through that? So you hit a moment where you're like, oh, I'm not really sure about this. I'm gonna do it, but I'm not really sure about it. You know, I want to overcome this. I have to pull all these teams together. You know, how did you break through that? And
I mean, in this perspective, the difference was done by the company, by the colleagues, by the team. This is why how you create the teamwork, how you manage the teamwork is fundamental exactly in this moment. Because you as a responsible, of course, need to hide if you believe that it's not possible. But if you are there, the risk is that you are not anymore driving the team in the right direction. But if you created a teamwork, if every important member of the team is committed like you, believe me, 1 or 2 or other 3 colleagues will be the driver. But you can do this only if the teamwork, if the commitment, at least in a first circle member of the team, the commitment is so high. If you are in these conditions, if one sees impossible, at least other 2 sees possible.
Do you think that's the passion of motorsport, where you see a brick wall, and that passion just like it's like we're not going to fight, we're not going to argue, we're not going to give up, but we all have a determining passion for one goal, and that is to see this project out, see that car on the road, and then see a happy customer?
Ryan, you're pointing out exactly a fundamental point, because we have in our DNA, because of Mr. Dallara. Mr. Dallara say always, the race weekend cannot be moved. So we must do everything possible and impossible to respect the date, the delivery, what the customer expects. This is in our DNA. Everything we do. If at one point someone says, okay, we must do it, it's incredible how you see the company that changed the shape of the company to make it feasible. So this is in our DNA, because motorsport, like you said, you have a target, you have a performance, you are in competitions, you have a race weekend date that cannot be moved, so you cannot decide, okay, we will not participate to that race. So you cannot do this. So this create a mindset, that this mindset is completely, let's say, present in every guy in this company. So for sure, for the Dallara Stradale, we apply the same method, because we are the same guys, the same people, the same crew. So this helped a lot. Indeed, the Dallara Stradale was developed in 2 years from scratch. If you consider that normally a big OE to do a new car, because normally they do platform evolution or version on the same platform and blah, blah, blah. But in the case of the Dallara Stradale, everything was done by zero. If a normal car maker starts from zero, they need 4, 5, 6 years to make a car. So we do everything in 2 years, and we did it just because our DNA is motorsport.
What a fascinating story. I feel like every motorsport fan could really emotionally connect with you in this conversation, but I also feel like any kind of professional business person could connect in this conversation as well. It's like, you know, I think every company I've ever worked for in my career has always, you know, worked to understand how you get a ginormous group of people together to execute a goal. And I've learned more in 6 months of this podcast, just talking to people like you, how that actually gets done. I think motorsports does it in an entirely different way than any other industry out there. And that's such a great conversation. So I end every conversation with one of, like, the main key point of this show is young people view motorsport, at least here in the States, as like a unachievable goal. It's like Hollywood. Like, I'll move somewhere and hope, you know, maybe I get discovered, maybe I find something, but it's not, the sport is not like that. What advice do you have for young people that, like, looking at yourself years ago when you said, this is my dream, this is my goal, I want to be in motorsport, I want to work for Dallara? What advice do you have for those young people?
I don't know if it looks like an advice, but I can tell you my experience. How in few words. If your dream is motorsport, you wake up in the morning taking every decision in that direction. If you eat something for lunch, you must have in mind that your road is the motorsport. If you go for sleep, you need that the last thought you have in mind is motorsport. So means, it's not marketing again, means that every decisions, because you do normally in a normal day, you do tens decisions per day. If every decision of these tens is in that direction, finally you can get the motorsport. For example, university, mechanical engineering. Then I heard about Formula Student. For example, Formula Student, I know if you know the format.
Yeah.
For me was fundamental. So, for example, I knew Formula Student. I was in Sicily, a university at a very low budget, no money. So, okay, I bring Formula Student into university. I create a team in my university, the first team of Formula Student. So we made the experience of Formula Student. That was a way, the fundamental point that in Dallara they decided to hire me. Oh, okay, you did Formula Student, very good for you. So this is really, let's say, important to be hired. So what I'm trying to say, every decision you take should be towards the direction you want to reach. Every decision, every. If you do this, finally, I believe that motorsport is accessible.
Again, this advice applies to literally everything. I started this show with two goals in mind, and one was to bring fans to motorsport and to kind of get a, call it a less dramatic version of Drive to Survive with all the other people involved in the sport. And the second was to educate young people. I have two teenagers. I am around young people often, and they generally either don't know what they want to do, and if they do, they don't always know how to get there. And I really wanted to provide a platform for young people to be able to identify a roadmap or a plan to achieve those dreams, whether it's motorsport or marketing, engineering, whatever, driver, team boss, doesn't matter. But also just in general in life, to have a plan, have a goal, and then, what are those steps to find out how to get there. And I think you kind of beautifully wrap that up in a message to do that. So seriously, thank you for coming on the show. You are one of those guests that are really, really great to talk to, because you have so much energy, and you don't even need to say I have passion for this. It just it comes out of your pores. It's always a great conversation to be around people like you with your level of energy, your level of experience, and for you to come off that. Again, I know of the names that you're always with before you come talk to me, to come down and speak to all of us fans and, just kind of passionate people in the sport. So thank you for your time and just making yourself available.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm always really, really happy to share my experience. Always.
Well, people are always ready to hear it. And I appreciate Dallara always. Just, I actually speak to your people more than anyone else. And, it's always like, what part of the business are you interested in now? I've gotten past the point of I want this person, and trust them to bring me people like you. It's kind of like, I think engineering or leadership or whatever the topic is. And they're like, okay, here's this person. And I'm like, I've never heard of them, and then you come on and it's like, wow, this is to date one of the most interesting people I've had on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Really, thank you.